Fucking forgot the name of the episode. I mean, they implied that mirrors were extremely rare, so imagining there's a mirror in this room. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoneface Reactions. I'm Theta, and we are back with another episode of the Apothecary Diaries. I believe this episode is named Mirrors. Not yet for a known reason, of course. I don't specifically remember anything from the next time on, other than the actuality of seeing mirrors and people in them, but, typically there's a greater meaning towards the episode title subtext, so we'll need to figure that out. Obviously, I think it'll become obvious by the end, because I just used obviously 3 times in the last minute. Anyway, we always come with a board, and the board is a board changelog. But of course, first thing I should obviously bring up, I'm using the word obviously a lot, is the fact that I did all that work that I said I would promise I would do on the board, which is to say, it might be a lot more confusing now, but it's also all in one space. So we have all of these larger images. The thing I said I would probably should have done way back in season 1, which is make the images larger to give them more space for more connections. Well, I did that. And I tried to connect all of the updates across what did I have, like 3 different mini boards at the time. I tried to include all of those updates I had made, and then I corrected a few relationships that I remembered I had changed in specific ways. But otherwise, I also kept the one mini board that expresses the family tree relationships more directly, as I thought that would be helpful. And I kept the what other people think and the reality subboards, just as a reminder for me, because sometimes even though these are all my theories and what I'm working with, I'm still getting confused, remembering what I think is the thing happening and what the thing happening is, and then not for nothing, there is that subtext of confusion that I'm having with the element that Jinshi's dates don't line up. So, by dates, I mean how old he is versus how old he's pretending to be, and how long ago he says certain things happened, which would then imply that he is not even the guy that he's pretending to be, or people think that he is, if his dates are wrong. So yeah, I mean, here's what the show gives you on a surface level, here's what I think the show is giving us on a subtext level, here's what I think the conspiracy is, and here's the stuff I'm still confused about. So, a lot of that going on. Anyway, that was just a note about the changing of the board. I have actual notes about changes made from last episode. I added Jin, and I connected her with a white line to Gyokyo, because, the idea that she was thought to have maybe poisoned Gyokyo, not proven. There's, I guess, some animosity, but at least the equivalent level of animosity that Gyokyo might have for Li Hao, for example, which I've also given a white line to, so. I added Jin's Lady in Waiting and connected her to Jin with a white line, considering the events that we know happened. I added San and connected her with a red line to Jin. I marked Jin as dead. I added Tao, connected her with a red line to Jin, and then marked her as dead. As we know, both of them died. I mean, clearly, I think the idea is that San is not going to live for very long herself, but not shown to be dead this episode. So, only real survivor of that whole circus act from last episode. That is essentially it for the board. I have notes. I apologize if these are shorter than usual. I was just taking a lot of notes about facts that happened in the episode. I didn't really have a lot to work with in the realm of speculation about what, say, is to come, given the element that, to me, this episode felt a lot like the metallurgy episode from last season. Or, actually, I'd say this is probably more like that episode where the concubine poisoned the John and then herself. Because it's self-encapsulating, but it deals with a matter that is more people-related than figuring out objects. So I'm gonna say it's more like that episode. Tao was given a hairpin at the garden party by an up-and-coming bureaucrat. Jin was an upper-middle-rank concubine and a daughter of a high-ranking official, and San was from a wealthy merchant family. These all imply connections to outside characters that could come into play at some future point. The South Gate is a popular spot for high and mid-ranked concubines to gather, and the north side has not been maintained well and has several abandoned buildings. These are things that tell us about specific areas of the palace that I don't think gets talked about a lot, and I'm trying to put it into reference in my head about other areas of the palace we typically get talked about, and I don't think anything actually specific comes up that often. Other than the episode before last that talked about what was it? Fruit bushes, or berry bushes, and where specific bugs were. Oh, I did say that I was going to go back and take images of the water network layout and Jinshi's map. I think I mentioned I was going to like overlay them on top of one another. I couldn't do that, but I did take images of both, and there was nothing coming out of that. I don't remember why I specifically wanted to do it, but nothing came of it. We've been focusing on educating the servants for the entire front half of the season, as something the Emperor seems to be doing, even though the face of it is jinshi. As it stands, I can't really tell where the payoff is going to be, unless this is just an ascendance of the bookworm storyline with no negative conspiracy attached to it. Which, I don't believe that is the case. I'm just throwing out there it's possible that not everything has to be negative. I have to assume that we got shown a frog hopping out of the bushes in one scene to imply something. I took the cat's appearance to mean that random animals were a rarity in the rear palace, and I'd have to think that a frog would be the same. I don't know I don't know much about frogs. So if there was something in particular about this one that would set off alarm bells, I got nothing yet. Jin was sick for the past year and stayed in her room. We covered in a previous episode that part of the reason that disease doesn't spread through the rear palace was that sick people tend to be sent home. And Hong Yang suggests that is what Jin should have done, especially since the Emperor wasn't visiting her. San has been sick for 2 years, though. I'm just thinking back now that this note actually doesn't make any sense. The elements of it are true, but we know the reason behind everything. I even have a future note about it, so I apologize if this was a waste of time note. I write everything in order. Maomao suggests that Hong Yang is giving her honest take about Jin and the worry that she may have been responsible for Gyokyo's initial poisoning. But I've never really lost my suspicion about the two of them from the first season. So, with that in mind, this seems more like misdirection to me. She is specifically alone with Maomao, the person Jinshi sends to figure out these things, on the eve of people from Gyokyo's homeland arriving. It feels like a setup to me. The fact that Jinshi sent her on the mushroom thing and specifically avoided speaking about it in front of those two as well. Funny note though, in Mao Mao's introspection, she only clears Gyokyo and the ladies in waiting. By which I mean she's thinking about Gyokyo and she says, oh, all this subterfuge and poisoning would be too much effort for a consort. And then she says the ladies in waiting have like no ability to do that. And then when she thinks about the ladies in waiting, she only thinks about the three that are always friendly and talking that we see. Hong Yang is not with them. So she clears, the mistress, essentially, and her servants, but not the head servant in her mind. I mean, she immediately jumps to, oh, this only implicates me, but, literally not the person she's with. I just thought it was funny. So the order of operations for this episode, Jin has San poisoned, then Jin gets killed in an accident or incident with Tao. Tao replaces Jin with the ladies-in-waiting help as a stand-in to cover up for her death. For some reason, they go with a ploy to make it look like Jin has food poisoning in a fashion that looks like how San was poisoned. When talks of Tao's marriage get too serious, they then kill Tao and rub the mushroom on her, scarring their own hands in the attempt to make Tao look like San, I guess, or at least like she would under the bandages. Though, and I may be misunderstanding this point, if that particular mushroom grows from the corpse of Jin in the ground, where did the original mushroom used against San 2 years ago come from? Also, in Maomao's description of events, Jin wasn't sick, and Tao took up looking sick as a cover to not talk. So why did they decide to make her look sick in a way that would implicate her as being the one who would have poisoned San? Like, the fact that she has the same thing going on that San does would point fingers back at her. It's like Jin was getting away with it, but then they made Tao a culprit before they killed her. Obvious note, but her lady-in-waiting had the same flower and scar from the opening of the show, so I guess that opening segment was indicating towards this. I don't know if I'm just looking too deeply into things, but Shisui has only been in the Rear Palace for a very short time, and is just being introduced to us this season. But every time we see the other court ladies with Jailan, Shisui isn't with them. I know Xiaolan. Sorry, I misspelled it the other way and I just read it phonetically for some reason. I know Xiaolan vanished for a long part of the first season as well. Just feels strange that this new character would be shown to us, and the person they are typically shown with, Xiaolan, they are absent from most of the time. And my final note here, the very ending bit is confusing. Maomao describes a mushroom that grows on a corpse, a caterpillar fungus, and then wonders what a fungus that grows on a corpse might look like, as though they didn't exist or that she didn't just mention one. Anyway, those are my notes. Nothing left to do here but to hop on into the episode and see what we get.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
I know every time I start the opening, I have a comment to say about the song. And I will say, I think it is starting to grow on me. My commentary that would even be anywhere near negative about it has nothing to do with the quality of the song. It's more so that the opening, I just don't pull as much from the opening as I feel like I did the last one. And I realized in comparing it to the first one that this one's probably better animation-wise than the first one. But the first one was like the first contact with a show that any of us ever had, or should have had, really. So just like a bit more attached to that one from nostalgia standpoint. And I will say, a thought that I had when I was watching the opening for my notes again last time, is there an element possibly of sign language to what Maomao is indicating to us in the very beginning of the opening? Like, I was betting not, which is why I didn't take any notes about it. But the element of constantly searching for meaning, and I just don't know what the meaning behind anything is. Because conceivably, this could just be the motion that she makes every time she bows her head to somebody who's of higher rank than her. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't do sign language. Oh, these two actually made it. We never saw them get out of a caravan door or anything. That is,
ほら見てマオマオ。
wasn't that Lulan's dad?
すごいですね。
でしょ。
なるほど。わざわざ呼んだのはこれのためか。
立派な姿見でしょ。何でできているかわかるかしら。
この反射。
Yeah, it's made of a
ハリ製
mirror.
でしょうか。
当たりよ。ほんと玉葉様が2人いるみたい。
ハリ製の鏡は作るのが難しく、裁縫からの渡来品しかない。すこぶる高級品だ。
Yeah, everything's in the West,
うっかり
apparently.
割ってしまったら首が飛んでも文句は言えない。
前にもハリ製の手鏡はあったけど、イーファが割っちゃったからね。もうそれは言わないでよ。
玉葉様がおおらかな人でよかった。
マーマーも興味あるんだ。
はい、どういう構造になっているのでしょうか。国内で量産できるようになればもう。
Yeah, don't touch it, you'll get it messy.
そうだね。この姿見はね、異国の特使からの献上品
I mean, also the element, you've seen yourself before. You can... So many waterways here in the Rip Palace.
大規模なキャラバンが来たのは異国の特使を迎えるための先行隊だとか。
他の上級妃にも送っているみたいだけどね。そういう言い方はやめなさい。
玉葉妃を含めた上級妃は4人。特使としても誰かだけをひいきにはできない。こんな立派な姿。
You know, I didn't anticipate that those two were actually going to be the envoys. Given the fact that we saw them already, that's why I took a note about the fact that there were also envoys coming.
シャオマオ、今よろしいですか？
ガオシュン様、どうなさったのですか？
少しシャオマオの意見を聞かせてほしいことがありまして、本ニャン様、場所をお借りしても。
ええ、構いませんが、込み入ったお話なんですか？
二人きりはまずいと本ニャン様も同席してくれたが、ガオシュン様が妻子持ちとしてすっかり興味を失ったらしいな。
That's a weird addition, considering a season plus some episodes that they've been in contact with one another. Also, Gaoshin is a grandpa.
とある領家に2人の娘がいました。年が近くよく似た姉妹は両親に愛されて育ちましたが、年頃になると過保護とも言えるほどになりまして、一人はもちろんのこと、2人でも外に出ることは許されず、監視役の次女をつけられ、姉妹は家に閉じこもる日々でした。哀れに思った次女が時折連れ出すこともありましたが、それが父親に知られてしまい、部屋の外にも下男を監視役に置き、
That seems like a weird,
出られないようにしたそうです。もともと内向的な姉妹は一日中部屋で刺繍をしていま
I
した。
mean, I get why you put a lady in waiting to watch over your two daughters, but suddenly hire a bunch of men to do so seems weird.
1000人の子を身ごもりました。
それは
妙な話ですね。
また次女がこっそり外出させたのでは？
いえ、外出させた次女は見せしめ的に解雇されまし
Well, I
た。
mean, I would assume, again, one of the men
新しい
watching
次
her.
女はあまり姉妹と接していなかったそうです。
Geno.
では、不埒な話ですが、監視役の下男とか。
それも難しいですね。下男は監視のためでも部屋に近づくことも許されていませんでした。
確かに困った話ですが、私の領分ではないか
Yeah,
もしれない。
difficult, not impossible.
殿方と通じずにこう身ごもる例はないかという話ならわからなくもないですが、
そんなことがあるの？
実際に子が宿るのではなく、妊娠したように体が錯覚を起こすのです。
Well, this is clearly going to be a storyline that we're going to be doing this season.
と言い出したことがありました。
実際に妊娠したわけではなくて？
はい。それでも月のものが止まったり、胸や腹が張ってきたり、思い込みが体に及ぼす影響は大きいんです。
I mean, specifically our
その
two
妹が身ごもったことは確かなんです
consorts
か？
that believe that they are pregnant right now.
まあ、そういうことにしておいてください。
ん？
問題は、監視を逃れて妹が抜け出すことができたかどうかです。
では、姉妹がどのように監視されていたのかわかりますか？
ええ。こちらに見取り図が。
Is that the north area?
姉妹が住んでいたのは北側にある離れで、
Pretty sure that's the north area, right around where they wanted to build the
川屋はどちらに？
vocational training
離れ
building.
の中にあります。
もし妹が抜け出すとしたら、
出入り口は西側の廊下にしかありません。あとは東側と南側に窓がありますが、ゲランが監視していました。
ゲナンはどのあたりから監視していたのでしょう？
南側の窓は本宅の3階から、東側の窓は1階から監視していたらしいです。
見える範囲はかなり限られますね。室内はほとんど見えないのでは？
ええ。ただ、姉妹は窓辺で
So they went under the floor.
変わった趣味ですね。刺繍だなんて。
元は放牧の民だったようで。
なんだろう。
I'm just saying that segment of the map that he was indicating looks like this upper right-hand portion of the palace that we saw in the previous episodes.
同じ部屋のようだ。寝室は姉妹で別々に用意してある。この離れ、元は来賓用ですか？
よく気がつきましたね。
監視は何人いたのですか
？2人です。それぞれ持ち場はずっと同じでした。
随分と詳細を知っている。そのくせ全ては語っていない。
I'm gonna guess one of his granddaughters.
これは本当に知人の話なのか？口にしたいようなしたくないような。
そういえばシャオマオ、ジンス様からことつてで号が遅れそうなので詫びの品だそうです。
I'm only guessing granddaughters because I believe he had a previous previous conversation with Jinshi about one of his sons having more kids.
どうしていきなり？
最近、ジンシ様のもとに貴重な霊薬を送る者が多いと聞きましたよ。やけに熱心に探していると噂ですから。
まあそういうことで、こちらをどうぞ。
Oh, is that the golden rock from,
何ですかこれ?
I mean, it's the twice digested stone. But I mean the one from the opening credits. When child Jinshi walks up to her and she's holding it in her hands.
それで何か気づいたことはありませんか？
わかりました。少しお待ちいただけますか？
I mean, my best guess is that one of them has a limited line of sight and is sneaking into the window and the other one can't see.
そうですね。
監視は2人、それぞれがいつも同じ場所で見張っていた。そこで、こんな風に鏡を置いてみたらどうでしょう。
もう一つ木の実があるように見えます。
Fucking forgot the name of the episode. I mean, they imply that mirrors were extremely rare, so imagining there's a mirror in this room.
よく似た姉妹なら監視役が見分けるのは難しいかもしれません。
でもマオマオ、刺繍はどうなの？二人はそれぞれ違うものを刺繍していたのでしょ？
ええ、動物だと聞いています。確か鳥とウサギとか。
例えば、こんな絵だとすればどうでしょう。
Yeah. I don't say reflection of an image.
笑った顔が怒った顔のように見えませんか？
じゃあ、その刺繍も騙し絵だったってこと？
鏡に映って左右が逆になったら、別のものに見えるような柄を刺繍していたのかもしれません。一人が南側の窓辺で刺繍している間、もう一人が西側の出入り口から抜け出すのは可能だと思います。
なるほど。
確かにその方法なら抜け出して合いびきもできますね。
異国の特使が持ってきた姿見、あんなに美しく映るのだから、遠目に見れば十分間違えてしまうだろう。昔親父が留学
I mean, it would have to be somebody have import to have such a large mirror, right?
たしなみだったそうだ。ガオシュン様は両家の子女が家を抜け出しこうはらんだと言ったが、
At least it could be a merchant family.
なのか疑わしい。実際にはらんだのは もっと違う秘密なのかもしれない。密偵の疑いがあるものを客人として扱うこともある。
Also, not for nothing, another West reference. I don't mean Western as the mirror, I mean they lift at the West exit.
この U ターンで何を作ろうかな。
真珠の涙を流す絶世の美女ですか。
ああ、接待対応の交換に泣きつかれてな。
Oh, that's a reference too.
わざわざお仕事を増やさなくても。
God, I'm gonna have to go back over my notes for that one. They did mention already specifically a reference to the person who was going to be receiving the envoys. We don't know who they are yet specifically.
なんだ？
絶世の美人なら目の前にいますよと言いたいが。真珠の涙とはどういうことでしょ
う。詳しいことは知らないが、月の精のような美女で、彼女が踊れば祝福するように光が舞い、その涙は真珠となりこぼれ落ちたとか。
You know, I was just thinking, or wondering rather.
月のせいですか?
No, not that one. I was gonna say if that one dancing courtesan from season 1 was ever gonna come back.
幼い頃、特使は祖父から月のせいの話を何度も聞かされていたらしい。それで会ってみたいので探してほしいと言われたのだ。
祖父ということはかなり昔のことですね。
ああ、無理難題だが大事な外交の相手だ。できる限り答えたい。何か噂だけでも聞いたことはないか
？50年前、花町の踊り子、月のせい。
Granny? It's gonna be Granny. Is that the opening? Granny standing behind an image of herself? And that the picture is going to be an old version of her?
それらしい人物に会った記憶はないが。
すぐに思い当たらなくても無理ないと思います。
まさか。
そのまさかです。やり手ババアですよ、六召喚の。
まあ、どんな方なの
？Nothing like that description, that's for sure.
すぐ感じると思いますけど、どうしますか？
いや、それは。
でも、先方も50年前の人物だと分かってるのでしょ？代わりの美女ではダメなのですか？
それが、もう美女を集めての宴席は設けたんだ。月のせいほどではなくても粒揃いを集めたつもりだったが、相手は満足した様子はなく、むしろ鼻で笑うようだったと。
どんなやつだよ。
Looks like, to me, two older women. So they're not interested in companionship, they're interested in seeing an old friend, is my guess. Yeah, see?
それでjinshi様に話が回ってきたのか。誰もが見とれる容姿を持ち、性別は一応男。女性を夢中にさせるのに
The backhanded compliment of being called technically male.
しかし、面倒も起こりうる。色仕掛けを本気にされ、よとぎを求められても使えるものがない。もちろん、女の身でありながら特使という立場にあれば、そういう浅はかな真似はしないだろうが、避けておくに越したことはない。その特使というのは、どれほど重要な
I was gonna say it's the oddity of coming to Maomao with every weird ask when it's specifically not about herbalism or, you know, poisons and whatnot.
なるほど。遠方の国では他国との婚姻が進み、そこら中に美男美女がいると聞いたことがあります。そんな国の人間に月のせいとまで言わせたとは。香に幻覚剤でも混ぜたのでしょうか？
そんなことをするのか？
Granny is not gonna like this when you if this comes back to her.
この際何でもいい。何か当時の情報はないのか？
よほど困っているな。では藁にもすがるつもりで。わざわざ来てもらって悪いね。
なんだか妙な話を持ってきたね。
I mean, at least it confirms or disproves my idea that maybe Granny was going to die, and it was like a picture at like a funeral ceremony or something.
ばあさん昔異国の特使の接待をしたんだって。
ああ、そうだよ。50年以上前だったかね。前の史上様の時代さ。元は遺跡を利用して
So two emperors back.
町があって、モノミューさんの人がたくさん来てたんだ。人の往来の多いところだったから、急に都になる。
Well, that's interesting note. Might give more hint to the layout of the place, or specifically what they're talking about with the north blockage.
オオカミも随分悩んで、結局残っていた遺跡を使うことになった。元は何かの祭儀場で、果樹園の近くに綺麗な池と建物があってね。
それって、先日訪れた高級北側には荒れた果樹園があった。当時の宴の会場が今の高級の中にあってもおかしくはない。
そこを舞台にした踊り
It's also filled with mushrooms and the scent of death.
選ばれたのが私だったのさ。
選ばれた理由は？
そりゃ当時の花町で最上級の妓女だったからだよ。私を主役に十数人が踊ったよ。
今の姿は花というより華麗だ。
Like you said, don't let Granny know you're thinking these things.
一番の理由は体格だろうね。私は背も高くて体にメリハリもあったから。
確かに主役として舞台に立
She
った
doesn't look that different than Maomao's mother.
即興の場だったから準備にはかなり手間取ったんだよ。月の満ち欠けまで計算して遠石から見える景色を良くするのに障害物をどけてさ。果樹園が近いから虫も多くて、事前に葉についた幼虫を一匹残らず駆除して。まあ結局。
Yeah, we have talked about how the north side is filled with bugs too. Got that in the notes.
そこまで用意したのに、当日私の衣装にいたずらする奴らがいたのさ。虫の死骸をこすりつけられてね。でも私はそんなやわじゃない。ヒレで隠してうまくやり遂げたさ。結果は大絶賛。いたずらした奴は悔しがってたよ。
その話何度も聞いた。もっと違うことない？
可愛くない子だね。
You heard it so many times, and why did you have to think about this so hard to figure out it was Granny?
綺麗な絵だ。初めて見た。やり手ババアも大切にしていたのだろう。この幻想的な美女が金の亡者になるなんて。
Yeah, and that's the picture from the opening.
これはその特使というのがわざわざ国に帰って絵描きに描かせたそうだよ。月女神だなんて言ってね。
なるほど。この絵も美化されているわけか。
何か言ったかい？
なんでもないよ。
当人は二度とこの地を踏むことはなかったけど、キャラバンに預けて届けてくれたのさ。
でもばあさんは普通にいつも通り仕事しただけだろ。なんでそんなに気に入られてたの？
そんなの私も知らないよ。
So is this he fell in love 50 years ago and now wants to see them again? I'm saying we know the envoy is a woman.
しかし、いくら当時のばあさんが美人だったとしても、女神とまで言わしめたのは何だったのか。
Did they hide something here?
とりあえずこの絵によく似た人物を探します。
Like, were they the ones that messed with the outfit? There's something hidden in the outfit?
この絵に似た大柄な美女を見つける。
But why would that matter 50 years later?
いっそ顔は似てなくても大柄な女を見つけてみてはどうでしょう。今では随分縮んでしまいましたが、当時は身長が175センチあったそうです。
随分と大柄だな。
Interesting that they use centimeters.
得意としていたので、手足の長い方がよく生えたとのことです。
しかし、彼女たちに匹敵する美女で大柄となると難度が高いぞ。
特使様たちもそれくらいの背丈ですし、あまり小さい。
I'll be honest, I'd probably double down on this. Find somebody who looks like that, but also bring Granny, just in case they actually did want Granny, and they just, we're not idiots, we knew what you wanted.
さっきの物言いだと、特使たちもかなりの美人なのだろう。となればやはり、背丈が175センチを超える、美女を黙らせるほどの美貌の持ち主を。見つけました。 大変敵役の人物。
Is it gonna
背
be
丈が
Parin,
175センチを
Maomao,
超える美人
Joka?
でしょ？
Jinshi?
何が言いたい？
Jinshi lacks certain endowments. Okay, that looked like it was Lulan in the background. And the Emperor was talking to one of the servant girls who also looks like Lulan? And then random moon fairy. Wow. Apparently I wasn't paying attention. Which is odd, because, I didn't shut the fuck up the entire episode, but I mean, I did not think 24 minutes had passed already. Maybe there's an element at play there that so much stuff from the opening had finally taken place. Technically, even though I said the Ox Bazaar, whatever the fuck you call that thing, was also from the opening, technically that involves a scene that looks like a infant Jinshi approaching Maomao and she's holding it. Which I guess, doesn't actually make a whole lot of sense. Because I don't know in what context we're going to see in child Jinshi, if not from like a Gaoshun flashback. But, she has it, which can at least cause that scene to happen in whatever way it's going to happen. But on top of that, we had the grainy picture thing. But, I hadn't actually put a lot of thought into what this actually could mean, or if Granny was actually going to die. I did my notes section at one time, and then I let it go. But it's good to, at least recognize that it's actually happened. Okay, so let's also think back. Start of the episode, Gao Shun wants advice on two girls who snuck out, right? We can't let go of the fact that apparently the two girl envoys showing up are also two girls. Maybe there's an element that the actual envoy isn't them. The actual envoy is going to be their parent, who have the story for Gao Shun, who then wants to figure it out, or maybe it's a test. But the fact that they brought the mirrors to then give to the courtesans might explain why they had mirrors there. That's that element there. Obviously, I think there's more going on there because I still think they're going to be connected to Gyakyo at some point. Sorry, there was so much in my head. So much it just escaped it. There's also the element there at the end we saw for the next time on. Or no, sorry, before the next time on, before the end credits, where Lulan seemed to be standing behind somebody else that looked just like her, who is being talked to by the Emperor. And I've already given my whole, I think, a Padme Amidala situation is happening here, where one of them dresses up like the other one, because, my whole element of, what's her name? Not Shusui. Shusui is the new girl. The one who talked about the resurrection drug, who tried to have Jinshi killed, whose adopted father is also a doctor, how she dressed up as a guy and then, hid herself in a group of guys that all look the same. It's already happening in the show, to my opinion. So the idea that Lulan would also be doing it, not off the books, in my opinion. I don't know why then we went and looked at Shusui, though. And then next episode, it looks like Shusui's going to get in trouble. So it's just odd, the fact that I brought her up in this episode's notes. Or this episode, the notes I read this episode, right? As being suspicious how absent she was for having just been introduced. But then, here we are, and apparently here she will be as well. I don't know. I guess my thought process is going, how much stuff did we get introduced to this episode that's going to play out next episode? But then I'm also thinking about, what was the name of the episode? Chance or something else? By which I mean, I think the episode's name was Chance or something else, not Chance, or if the episode was named something else. I think there's also the element that an idea introduced in that episode is that not all of the details that we've been given so far are actually elements of a conspiracy, but are just happenstance things that are also happening. That a lot of the stuff that I've built up over the course of watching the show has led into conspiracy matters, but not all of those conspiracy matters have paid off, and the possibility exists that I'm being given an excess of information and not all of it pays off to something. You know, like, we're going to get to the end of season 2, and I'm still going to be left with, like, a bucket filled with hanging threads that don't go anywhere because they were never meant to go anywhere. Because ultimately, you can't have the story of everything, right? There's going to be too many side characters with their own stories going on, and sometimes those stories will just overlap, and then the rest of their story will continue on, and they'll be like, well, wait, we never answered this question about this passing character's thing. And I'll be like, well, yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with our current story of stuff that's going on. So in that respect, I could understand that maybe being the thing at play. I'm just trying to explain why maybe a bunch of stuff that I've taken notes about, the idea that I've said before that the show introduces a ton of stuff, and quite frequently the least important thing in one episode will be the driving force for a greater thing down the road. That maybe I am keeping too many notes about too many things that don't matter. I'm not going to stop, by the way. That's not me saying, oh, maybe I should back up a bit. No. I'm making an excuse for later on having a bunch of leftover stuff. I think it's more important to have too much stuff and then picking through it for the stuff that connects, rather than not having enough and then not being able to figure it out. Now, I think that's where I'm going to stop thinking about this episode stuff until I, come back with next episode's notes. Of course, we do have Maomao's notes to get into, so let's go ahead and hop into that and see if maybe that sheds some more light and brings us back to the conversation. Otherwise, oh, not even Maomao.
ただいま戻りました。
ガオシュン、ご苦労だった。して、薬屋の方はどうだった？
はい。今回の一件、鏡を使って抜け出したのではないかと。やはり、シャオマオは非常に察しがいいですね。こちらの事情も理解している様子でした。
鏡か。
Are we gonna find out
後で詳細を教えてくれ。
よい。では、私はこれで。
No, okay, we're not going to talk about where it came from then.
まだ報告が終わっていないぞ。
How did she react to the thing you gave her?
違う。
毒キノコはすべて採取して。
それも違う。
That was last episode.
U ターンとかいう代物はどうだった？
Yeah, we're calling it a different thing now, all of a sudden.
ここでガオシュンの豆知識。U ターンは胃のもたれあり。
I swear it was like an oxen thing before.
驚くべきはその即効性にある。
Yeah, not actually how you're telling us how you make it into a medicine.
私が覚えてしまうほど、U ターンがいかに優れた生薬であるか。
I'm assuming you shave a bit of it off into food or something?
それはつまり
大変喜ばれていらっしゃいました。
そうか。ご苦労だった。
Gao Shun looks so fucking tired.
まったく手のかかるお方だ。次回月星国の安寧を揺るがす美女ご覧いただきましょう。
Yeah, I guess we're just gonna be dressing up Jinshi again. Again, if I was there, I would put Granny in the room, because they might just actually want to talk to Granny. She is the one from 50 years ago. I don't think an old man. Well, no, these are women. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. But I anticipated that it was going to be the two women. It looked like two old women that were sitting there in the drawback shot. Maybe there was a guy there and I didn't pay any attention to him. I don't know. That's my guess. My guess is that they're gonna pull out Jinshi as a crossdresser, or they're gonna pull out, one of the 3 princesses of the Verdigris house, and it's not gonna satisfy them, and they're gonna actually want Granny, because Granny was the one that was there. That's my guess. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this episode. So, once again, I have been Theta. This has been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?